Myself, N. Sri Ramalinga Ganesaperumal, Assistant Professor, Department of Electronics and Communication Engineering, Government College of Engineering, Srirangam, Trichy. I am going to give you a lecture on Multimedia Compression and Communication. Title is Multimedia Communication. So these are the contents for multimedia communication. So this one is the 5th unit in multimedia compression and communication. First of all, what do you mean by data streams? There are two types. Actually, there are three types. One is the synchronous, then asynchronous and isochronous. But here in this unit, they gave only the synchronous and isochronous. Synchronous is nothing but this one is synchronous with the clock pulse. That is, your data is synchronous with the clock pulse. So it defines the maximum end-to-end delay. The packets can be received at an arbitrary early time. For retrieving the uncompressed video at the data rate of that is 140 megabits per second. So here the end-to-end delay is 1 second. So in the receiver, so it should have the temporary storage of 17.5 megabytes. So in case of isochronous is runs on asynchronous mode. So it defines the maximum and minimum end-to-end delay. So the storage requirements at the receiver reduces. Then the characterizing the continuous media streams. So here the first point is on periodicity. Periodicity is nothing but the data occurring at regular intervals. So here there are 3 points. One is on strongly periodic. So here the pulse code modulation coded speech in telephony behaves this way. That is here is an example of strongly periodic in periodicity point. Then next one is an weekly periodic. Then third one is an aperiodic. So here in the cooperative applications with the shared windows is possible. Then next one is a variation of consecutive packet size. Here there are 3 points. One is a strongly regular. Here the uncompressed digital data transmission is received. Then weekly regular. Here the MPEG standard frame size is achieved. One is a I frame, then P frame, then B frame. I frame is nothing but the intercoded frame. P frame is a predicted frame. B frame is bidirectional frame. So here the ratio is 10:1:2. So these are the irregular in size. That is the packet size. The next one is in contiguous packets. This will occur at regular intervals. So here the data are transmitted directly one after the another. So it can be seen as a utilization of resource. So it may be in connected data streams or unconnected data streams. The next topic is in streaming media. So this one is a popular approach to continuous media over the internet. So the playback at the user's computer is done while the media is being transferred. That means the no waiting till the download is completed. So you can find the streaming in internet radio stations, distance learning, then live cricket, then movie trailers. So these are the examples. The next one is this one is an example of this one is a framework of streaming media. Then multimedia applications. So multimedia plays a major role in following areas. There is the instruction, business, then entertainment. In business, this one is used in advertisements, training materials, presentations, customer support services. But in case of entertainment, this will be used in playing games. The next one is in your multimedia is used in medicine. Here the cardiac imaging, that is for medical applications. The next one is a notion of synchronization. Multimedia synchronization is understood in correspondence of content relation, spatial relation, and temporal relation. There are 3 types of relation is available. One is a content relation. It defines the dependency of media objects for some data. The example is that is a dependency between a filled spreadsheet and the graphics that represent the data listed in spreadsheet. The next one is on spatial relations. Spatial relation is represented through layout relation, and it defines the space used for presentation of media object on an output device at a certain point of time in a multimedia document. So here the example is on desktop publishing. So the layout frames are placed on an output device and a content is assigned to this frame. So here the positioning of layout frames, the fixed to the position of the document, then fixed to the position on the page, then relative to the position of other frame. There are 3 positioning Here it is possible. Then the concept of frames is used for positioning of time dependent objects. Here the example is Windows based system. The layout frames correspond to Windows and the video can be positioned in a window. The next one is on temporal relation. Temporal relation defines the temporal dependencies between the media objects. Example is a lip synchronization. This relation is the focus of our papers. We will not talk about the content or spatial relation. Say the time dependent objects, it represents a media stream because there exists a temporal relations between the consecutive units of the stream. The time independent objects are traditional media such as the images or text. The temporal relationship. The temporal synchronization is supported by many system components. One is the OS. Here it is used in CPU scheduling, semaphores during IPC. Then communication systems. This will be used in traffic shaping and network scheduling. Then in databases and document handling. Synchronization needed at several levels of a multimedia system. The next one is an synchronization considered at several levels of multimedia system. One is the first level is an OS and the lower level communication layers. Here it is used in CPU scheduling, semaphores during IPC, traffic shaping and the network scheduling. So our objective is to avoid the jitter at the presentation time of one stream. The level 2 is middleware or session layer. This will be at the runtime mode. That is a synchronization of multimedia streams. Here our objective is bounded skews between the various streams. The level 3 is the application layer. So it supports for synchronization between the time dependent and the time independent media together with the handling of user interaction. So here our objective is bounded skews between time dependent and the time independent media. The next one is a specification of synchronization. There are two types. One is an implicit specification, other one is an explicit specification. So what do you mean by implicit specification is here the temporal relation may be specified implicitly during the capturing of the media. So here our the objects is to capturing of the media objects. So here the goal of the presentation is to present media in the same way as they were originally captured. So the example is audio video recording and the playback the VOD applications. So then the next specification is the explicit specification. Here the temporal relation may be specified explicitly in the case of presentation that are composed of independently captured or otherwise created objects. Here the slideshow where the presentation is designed. So it will select the appropriate slides, then creates the audio slides. It will define the units of audio presentation streams. Then it will define the units of audio presentation streams where the slides have to be presented. Then the classification of synchronization units. One is the logical data units. Here the samples or pixels are used, then notes or frames are used, that movements or scenes are used, then symphony or movie. So there are several components. The next one is a fixed LED. There is a LDU. There is a fixed logical data units versus the variable data units. That is the next one is the LDU specification during recording versus the LDU defined by the user. Then open LDU versus the closed LDU. So these are the various classification of synchronization units. Then the synchronization classification. One is the intra-object synchronization, other one is the inter-object synchronization. So what do you mean by intra-object synchronization is nothing but the time relation between the various presentation units of one time dependent media stream. The what do you mean by the inter-object synchronization is the time relation between the media objects belonging to two time dependent media streams. So this is the picture of intra-object synchronization and inter-object synchronization. Next one is a synchronization classification is synthetic synchronization. So here our goal is to arrange the stored data objects to provide new combined multimedia objects via the artificial temporal relations. So what are all the requirements are? It will support the flexible synchronization relations between media. So the example of synthetic synchronization is authoring, but the next one is the tutoring systems. So there are two phases available. One is the specification phase. It will define the temporal relations. The next one is the presentation phase. It will present the data in the synchronous mode. So example is a 4 audio messages recorded related to the parts of engine in animation. The animation sequences shows a slow 360-degree rotation of engine. So this will be the example of synthetic synchronization. Next one is a live synchronization. Our goal is to exactly reproduce the presentation, the temporal relation as they existed during the capturing process. So the need to capture the temporal relation information during the capturing. Next one is a live is needed. That is, this synchronization is needed in Conversational services like video conferencing, video phones, then recording and retrieval services are considered here. This will be presented with delay. The next one is a synthetic synchronization. Temporal relations are artificially specified, so this will be often used in presentation and retrieval based systems with stored data objects that are arranged to provide new combined multimedia objects. So the example is authoring and tutoring systems. There are two phases. The one is a specification phase, we will already discussed in previous slide. Next one is an for intra-object synchronization. Our need is to accuracy is concerning jitter, then EED delays in presentation of the logical data units. Then for inter-object synchronization, accuracy in parallel presentation of media objects. This will be most considered. Next one is the implication of blocking. This only okay for the time independent media. The problem is that time dependent media, that is the gap problem, is introduced here. Next one is an gap. What do you mean by the gap problem in synchronization? We will discuss in later. The what does blocking of stream means for output devices. We should repeatedly play the previous music, speech and picture. How long should the gap exist means, that is solution one is restricted blocking method. So we must switch the output device to last picture as the still picture, then switch the output device to the alternative presentation if gap is between the late video and the audio exceeds the predefined threshold. The solution 2 is resample stream. So one is a speed up or slow down the streams. Then here there are two types. One is offline resampling, then one is online resampling. Offline resampling is used after the capturing of media streams with independent streams. Here the example is concert, which is captured with two independent audio or video devices. The online resampling is used during presentation in case of gap between the media stream occurs. Next one is the synchronization requirements. One is a lip synchronization. It defines the temporal relation between the audio and the video. Here the synchronization skew. What do you mean by synchronization skew is time difference between the related audio and video LDUs. So streams in synchronize if skew is equal to 0 or skew is less than or equal to bound. If it is a negative skew means video before the audio. If it is a positive skew means audio before the video. That's all. So what are the requirements in lip synchronization? That is the in sync and the out of synchronization. That is minus 80 milliseconds. That is skew is in between minus 80 milliseconds and 80 milliseconds. The out of synchronization is skew is in between the minus 160 milliseconds to plus 160 milliseconds. In case of transient mode, skew is in between the both modes are available. That is one is 80 milliseconds, other one is 160 milliseconds. That is skew is in between the minus 160 milliseconds to minus 80 milliseconds. Then another one is skew is in between the minus 80 milliseconds to 160 milliseconds. Both is possible. Next one is a pointer synchronization. So these are the pictures. One is the pointer synchronization based on the technical drawing. Then pointer synchronization based on the mapping. Next one is here the negative skew, the pointer before the audio. The positive skew is pointer after the audio. So what are the requirements of pointer synchronization? In skew there is a skew is in between the minus 500 milliseconds to 750 milliseconds. But in case of out of synchronization, the skew is in between the minus 1000 milliseconds to 1250 milliseconds. But in case of transient, skew is in between the minus 1000 milliseconds to minus 500 milliseconds. Then skew is in between minus 750 milliseconds to 1250 milliseconds. So we can use either one of this. The next one is an other synchronous requirement, other sync requirements. One is the jitter delay of digital audio. So here the maximum allowable jitter is 5 to 10 nanoseconds as per the perception experiments, then 2 milliseconds for other experiments. The combination of audio and animation, so not stringent as the lip synchronization, maximum allowable skew is plus or minus 80 milliseconds. The stereo audio, this will be tightly coupled. The maximum allowable skew is 20 milliseconds due to listening errors. Suggestion even there is plus or minus 11 milliseconds. So loosely coupled audio signal channels, that is in case of speaker and background music. So maximal allowable skew is 500 milliseconds. These are to be noted. The next one is the synchronization requirements. The production level synchronization should be guaranteed prior to the presentation of data at the user interface. For example, in case of recording of synchronized data for a subsequent playback, the stored data should be captured and recorded with skew. For playback, the defined lip synchronized boundaries are 80 milliseconds. For playback at local and remote workstation, simultaneously the synchronous skew should be between minus 160 milliseconds and 0 milliseconds. Here the video should be ahead of audio for remote station due to pre-fetching. Next one is an presentation level synchronization should be defined at the user interface. This synchronization focus on human perception. Here the examples are video and image overlay, that is plus or minus 250 milliseconds, video and image non-overlays plus or minus 500 milliseconds, audio and image, that is music with notes, this will be between plus or minus 5 milliseconds, audio and slideshow is loosely coupled images plus or minus 500 milliseconds, audio and text annotation is plus or minus 240 milliseconds. So the reference model for synchronization of multimedia objects are classified with respect to 4 level system. One is a specification level, the next one is the second one is an object or service level, third one is a stream level, fourth one is a media level. So what do we mean the specification level? It is an open layer. It includes the applications and tools which allow to create the synchronization specifications. The example is synchronization editors. So this is for editing and formatting, that is mapping of user QoS, that is quality of service, to abstractions at the object level. So what do you mean by the object and service level? This one is a second level. It operates on all types of media and hides the difference between the discrete and continuous media. The plan and coordinate presentation and initial presentations are done at this level. Then the next one is a stream level. It operates on multiple media streams. It provides the inter-stream synchronization. Then this will be used in resource reservation and scheduling. The last level is a media level. It operates on single stream, threaded as a sequence of LDUs, that is a logical data units, provides the intra-stream synchronization. This will be used in file and device access. Then synchronization in distributed environments. The information of synchronization must be transmitted with audio and video streams so that the receiver side can synchronize the streams. The delivery of complete synchronization information can be done before the start of presentation. This is used in synthetic synchronization. The advantages are simple implementation. The disadvantages is presentation delay. The delivery of complete synchronization information can be using out of band communication via the separate synchronization. This is used in live synchronization. The advantages is no additional presentation delays. The disadvantages is additional channel is needed. Additional errors can occur. Then delivery of complete synchronization information can be done using in-band communication via multiplexed data streams. That is, the synchronization information is in headers of the multimedia PDU. Then the advantages are related synchronization information is delivered together with media units. So what are the disadvantages? Difficult to use for multiple sources. Then the location of synchronization operations. It is possible to synchronize media objects by recording objects together and leave them together as one object, that is the combine objects into new media object during creation. Here the synchronization operation happens then at the recording site. So synchronization operation can be placed at the sync. In this case the demand and bandwidth is larger because the additional synchronization information must be transported. Here the synchronization operation can be placed at the source. In this case the demand and the bandwidth is smaller because the streams are multiplexed according to the synchronization requirements. So consider the synchronization accuracy between the clocks at the source and the destination. Here the global time based synchronization needs clock synchronization. In order to resynchronize, we can allocate buffers at the sync and start transmission of audio and video in advance, or use network time protocol to bound the maximum clock offset. Then in case of the distributed environment, synchronization in distributed environment is a multi-step process. So sync must be considered during object acquisition, during video digitization. Sync must be considered during retrieval, that is synchronous access to frames of stored video. Sync must be considered during delivery of LDUs to the network. Then sync must be considered at the sync. Then synchronization specification methods, that there are interval based specification. The presentation during of an object is considered as an interval. Here the examples of operations: A before 0, then B and the A, this overlap B, then A starts B, then A equals B, then A during B, A while of 0, 0 B. What are the advantages? Are easy to handle, open LDUs, therefore the user interactions. Disadvantages of model does not include skew specifications. Then in case of synchronization specification, the control flow based specification is hierarchical approach. We are using the flow of concurrent specific presentation. Threads is synchronized in predefined points of presentation. So here the basic hierarchical specification. One is a serial synchronization. The other one is in parallel synchronization of actions. So here the actions can be atomic or compound. The atomic actions handles presentation of single media object, that is user input or delay. The compound actions are combinations of synchronization operations and the atomic actions. So delay as an atomic action allows the modeling of further synchronization. Here the example is delay in serial presentation. So here the control flow based specification in hierarchical approach. Here the advantages is easy to understand. Natural support of hierarchy and integration of interactive objects is easy. So disadvantages is additional description of SKUs and the quality of service is necessary. We must add presentation durations. Next one is a control flow based synchronization specification. Here the timed Petri nets are used. So here the input plays with the token, then the transition output plays. What are the advantages? A timed Petri net allows all kinds of synchronization specification. The disadvantages is difficulty with complex specification and offers insufficient abstraction of media object content because the media objects must be split into sub-objects. Then audio and video services, streaming stored audio and video. The files are compressed and stored on a server. The client downloads the files through the internet. This is sometimes referred to as on-demand audio or video. The next one is an streaming live audio or video. It refers to the broadcasting of radio and TV programs through the internet. The next one is an interactive audio video. It refers to the use of the internet for interactive audio and video applications. A good example of this application is the internet telephony and internet teleconferencing. So what are the approaches in streaming stored audio and video? First approach is using a web server. Second approach is using a web server with a metafile. Third approach is using a media server. The fourth approach is using a media server and RTSP. This one is the first approach using a web server. Here the client can use the services of HTTP and can send a GET message to download the file. The web server can send the compressed file to the browser. The third one is the browser can then use a help application normally called a media player to play the file. The file needs to download completely before it can be played. The second approach is using a web server with a metafile. The media player is directly connected to the web server for downloading the audio or video files. The web server stores two files. One is the actual audio video file and a metafile. What do you mean by the metafile? The metafile holds the information about the audio and the video file. So what are the steps in the second approach is the HTTP client accesses the web server using the GET message. The information about the metafile comes in the response. The metafile is passed to the media player. The media player uses the URL in the metafile to access the audio and video file. Then last one is the web server, the response. So what are the drawbacks are? The browser and the media player both uses the services of HTTP. The HTTP is designed to run over TCP. This is appropriate for retrieving the metafile but not for retrieving the audio or video file because the TCP retransmits a lost or damaged segment, which is counter to the philosophy of streaming. The third approach is using a media server. The HTTP client accesses the web server using a GET message. Then the information about the metafile comes in the response. The next one is a metafile is passed to the media player. The media player uses the URL in the metafile to access the media server to download that file. Then downloading can take place by any protocol that uses the UDP. Then the media server responds. The fourth approach is using a media server and the RTSP. RTSP is nothing but real-time streaming protocol. So it is a control protocol designed to add more functionalities to the streaming process. Using RTSP, we can control the playing of audio or video. Here, the HTTP client accesses the web server using a GET message. The information about the metafile comes in the response. The metafile is passed to the media player. The media player sends a setup message to create a connection with the media server. Then the media server responds. The media player sends a play message to start playing or downloading. The audio or video file is downloaded using another protocol, then runs over the UDP. The connection is broken using the tear down message. The media server responds. Then streaming the live or audio video. Streaming live audio video is similar to the broadcasting of audio and video by radio and TV stations. The stations broadcast through the internet. So what are the similarities between the streaming stored audio video and streaming live audio video is they are both sensitive to delay. So neither can accept the retransmission. The differences between the streaming stored video and audio video and streaming live video is in streaming stored audio video the communication is unicast and on demand, but in case of streaming live audio the communication is multicast and live. The live streaming is better suited to the multicast services of IP and the use of protocols such as the UDP and the RTP. So the examples are internet radio, internet television and the internet protocol television. Then the real-time interactive audio video. In real-time interactive audio video, people can communicate with one another in real time. Example through internet phone or voice over IP, that is video conferencing. So what are the characteristics? First one is the time relationship. The real-time data on packet switch network required the preservation of time relationship between the packets of the session. So here there is a gap between the first and the second packets and between the second and the third as the video is viewed at the remote side. This phenomenon is called jitter. Jitter is introduced in real-time data by the delay between the packets. Here next one is a timestamp. One solution to jitter is use of timestamp. If each packet has a timestamp that shows the time it was produced relative to the first or previous packet, then the receiver can add this time to the time at which it starts the playback. The third one is the playback buffer. To be able to separate the arrival time from the playback time, a buffer is needed to store the data until they are playback. A buffer to store the data until they are played back. The buffer is referred to as the playback buffer. The fourth one is the ordering. It is used to define the sequence number. The timestamp alone cannot inform the receiver if a packet is lost. So that one is an ordering. The next one is a multicasting. Multimedia plays a primary role in audio and video conferencing. The traffic can be heavy and the data are distributed using multicasting methods. The conferencing requires two-way communication between the receivers and the senders. The next one is a mixing. If there is more than one source that can send data at the same time, as in case of a video or audio conference, the traffic is made up of multiple streams. Mixing means combining several streams of traffic into one stream. So next one is a support from transport layer protocol. Here is that TCP is not suitable for interactive traffic, so it has no provision for timestamping and does not support multicasting. However, it does provide ordering, that is sequencing numbers. One feature of TCP that makes it particularly unsuitable for interactive traffic is its error control mechanism. So the UDP is more suitable for interactive multimedia traffic. UDP supports multicasting and has no retransmission strategy. However, UDP has no provision for timestamping, sequencing or mixing. A new transport protocol, that is a real-time transport protocol, provides these missing features. Real-time transfer protocol. It is a protocol designed to handle real-time traffic on the internet. So this is a real-time packet header format. So it does not have a delivery mechanism, that is a multicasting port numbers and so on. It must be used with the UDP. It stands between the UDP and the application program. The main contribution of RTP are timestamping, sequencing and mixing facilities. So that is a VER is nothing but in the packet format is this 2-bit field defines the version number. Then P, that is a 1-bit field. If set to 1, the presence of padding at the packet end. The X is also a 1-bit field. If set to 1 means it indicates an extra extension header between the base header and the data. Then the contributor count. This 4-bit field indicates the number of contributors. Then M indicates the 1-bit field is a marker used by the application to indicate. Then next one is a payload type. This one is a 7-bit field. This indicates the type of the payload. The several payload types have been defined so far. The next one is a sequence number. This field is a 16 bits in length. It is used to number the RTP packets. The next one is a timestamp. This is a 32-bit field that indicates the time relation between the packets. The next one is a synchronization source identifier. If there is only one source, this 32-bit field defines the source. The contributor identifier. Each of these 32-bit identifiers that defines the source when there is more than one source. UDP port in RTP. No well-known port is assigned to RTP. The port can be selected on demand with only one restriction. The port number must be even number. The next number is an odd number used by the companion of RTP real-time transfer time protocol. Real-time real-time transfer control protocol. Sorry. So what are the drawbacks in RTP? The RTP allows only one type of message, one that carries data from the source to the destination. In many cases, there is a need for other messages in a session that control the flow and the quality of data, so and allow the recipient to send feedback to the source. To avoid the above drawback, the RTCP, that is a real-time transfer control protocol, is used. So the types of messages, that is a source description message, by message, application specific message. The sender report is sent periodically by the active senders in a conference to report transmission, reception, statistics for all RTP packets sent during the interval. The receiver port is for passive participants, those that do not send RTP packets. The reporter informs the sender and the other receivers about the quality of service. The source periodically sends a source description message to give additional information about itself. A source sends a by message to shut down a stream. It allows the source to announce that it is leaving the conference. The application specific message is a packet for an application that wants to use new application. This will not be defined the standard. It allows the definition of a new message type. That is a UDP. It is used as a temporary port. The UDP port chosen must be the number immediately following the UDP port selected for the RTP, which makes it an odd numbered port. Then there is a voice over IP. The idea is to use the internet as a telephone network with some additional capabilities. Instead of communicating over a circuit switch network, this application allows communication between the two parties over the packet switch networks. Two protocols have been designed to handle this type of communication. SIP, that is a session initiation protocol, and H.3323. So this is a figure of SIP messages. This is a figure of SIP SIP formats. This one is a simple session, defines the SIP. One is establishing, communicating, and the terminating session. So this figure shows tracking the Kali. One is the invite and the work in the acknowledgement, then by, which already defined in previous slides. Then this one is H.323 architecture. This is a gateway between the internet and the telephone network. Then H.323 protocol frame format. So this is the example of H.323. Then H.263. This is a chronology of video standards. There is IS1 ITU standards. Next one is an H.261, that is a Inter-Telecommunication Union standard that is designed to work at multiples of 64 kilobits per second. That is, it operates on standard frame sizes, CAF and QCAF. So this one is an MPEG-1, that ISO storage and retrieval of audio and video standard. It is an evolution of H.261. The main application is CD-ROM based video. That is, the data rate is 1.5 megabits per second. Though this International Telecommunication Union recommendation H.263 standard, it targets low data rates, that is less than 28 kilobits per second. For example, it can compress QCAF video to 10 to 15 frame per second at 20 kilobits per second. For the first time, there is a standard video codec that can be used for video conferencing over normal phone lines. The H.263 is also used in ISDN based VC, that is H.320, and network and internet, that is H.323. Then it is composed of baseline plus 4 negotiable options. One is the baseline codec, then is the unrestricted extended motion vector mode, then advanced prediction mode, then PB frames mode, then syntax based arithmetic coding mode. These are the frame formats of SQCF, QCF, CAF, 4 CAF, 16 CAF. Then picture and macro block types, two picture types. Intra frame, that is implies no temporal prediction is performed. Interframe, that is a pre-frame, imply temporal prediction. The macro block, that is MB types, intra and inter MB types, even in P frames. So inter MBs have a shorter symbols in P frames, then intra MBs have shorter symbols in I frames. So the not coded frames and MB data is copied from previous decoded frames. Then the motion vectors have then 1/2, that's a half pixel granularity. The reference frames must be interpolated by 2. The MVs are not coded directly, but rather a median predictor is used. The predictor residual is then coded using a VLC table. This is the table. So this is the motion vector delta symbol length. That is code length in bits, where MVD absolute value. Then transform coefficient coding is they assign a variable length code according to three parameters. One is the length of the run of zeros preceding the current non-zero coefficient. Second one is the amplitude of the current coefficient. Third one is the indication of whether current coefficient is the last one in the block. The common one is the variable length coded, that is 3 to 13 bits. The rest are coded with the escape sequences, that is 22 bits. Then the quantization, H.263 uses a scalar quantizer with a center clipping. Quantizer varies from 2 to 62 by 2's complement. Then it can be varied by plus or minus 1, plus or minus 2 at macro block boundaries. That is in capacity is 2 bits, or 2 to 62 at row and picture boundaries. That is this will be the capacity is 5 bits. Bitstream syntax. These are the hierarchy of 3 layers. One is the picture layer, GOB layer, and the MB layer. GOB is usually a row of macro blocks except for frame sizes greater than CAF. Then picture layer concept, there is a PSE, which is another picture start code, say a sequence of bits that cannot be emulated anywhere else in the bit stream. The next one is a temporal reference, 29.97 heads counter indicating the time reference for a picture. Next one is a picture type, denotes the intra and intercoded picture. Then the picture quantine. This quantine indicates which quantization is used, that is 2 to 62 is used initially for the picture. Then GOB layers. GOB start code, the GOB number, and the GOB quantization. GSE is another unique start code, that is capacity 17 bits. GOB number indicates which GOB counting vertically from the top 5 bits. Then GOB quantization indicates which quantization 2 to 62 is used for this GOB. The GOB can be decoded independently from the rest of the frame. Then this one is a macro block layer concept. First one is a coded flag, then next one is an MB type, next one is a code block pattern, then dequantize, then MV deltas and transform coefficients. First one is a COD set, indicates the empty inter MB. The MB type is indicates the intra or inter, whether MV is present. Then the CBP indicates which blocks, if any, are empty. Then dequantization indicates the quantization change by plus or minus 2 or 4. Then MV deltas are the MV prediction residuals. The next one is the transform coefficients. There are 3 VLCs for the coefficients. Next one is the unrestricted extended motion vector mode. Motion vectors are permitted to point outside the picture boundaries. One is a non-existent pixels are created by replicating the edge pixels. It improves the compression where there is a movement across the edge of a picture boundary and when there is a camera panning. So it is also possible to extend the range of the motion vectors from, that is 16, 15.5 to minus 31.5 to 31.5 with some restrictions. So this better addresses the high motion scenes. Here the motion vectors over the picture boundaries, the edge pixels are repeated here in the reference frame in case of the target frame. Then extended MV range, the base motion vector range. The extended motion vector is minus 16, 15.5 around the MV predictor. So next one is the advanced prediction mode, includes the motion vectors across the picture boundaries from the previous mode. The option of using 4 motion vectors for 8x8 blocks instead of 1 motion vector for 16x16 blocks is in baseline. The overlapped motion compensation to reduce the blocking artifacts. Overlapped motion compensation, in normal motion compensation, current block is composed of the predicted block from the previous frame referenced by the motion vectors plus the residual data transmitted in the bit stream for the current block. In the overlapped motion compensation, prediction is a weighted sum of 3 predictions. Overlapped motion compensation, let the M of n be the column and the row indices of 8x8 pixel block in a frame. Let I of I, j be the column and the row indices of the pixel within the 8x8. Let x of a be the column and the row indices of the pixel within the entire frame format. So x of x, y is equal to m, I plus I, n plus j. The overlapped motion compensation. So this will be the picture. Next one is this one is the equation of overlapped motion compensation. So this is the figure. Then PB frames mode, it permits 2 pictures to be coded as 1 unit. The P frame is a baseline and the bidirectionally predicted frame or B frame. B frame provides more efficient compression at times. It can increase frame rate 2x with only about 30% increase in bit rate. The restriction is the backward predictor cannot extend outside the current MB position of the future frame. So we can see the diagram of PB frames. Okay. Next is the syntax based arithmetic coding mode. In this mode, all the variable length coding and decoding of baseline H.263 is replaced with arithmetic coding by decoding. This removes the restriction that each symbol must be represented by an integer number of bits, thus improving the compression efficiency. Experiments indicate that the compression can be improved by up to 10% over variable length coding. Complexity of arithmetic coding is higher than the variable length coding. H.261 accepts QCF and CF format. No 1/2 Pell motion estimation is in H.261. Instead, it uses a spatial loop filter. So it does not use the median predictors for motion vectors, but simply uses the motion vector in the MB to the left as a predictor. H.261 does not use a 3D VLC for transform coefficient coding. The GOB headers are mandatory in H.261. Quantization changes at MB granularity requires 5 bits in H.261 and only 2 bits in H.263. So this is a figure. Thank you all.